Welcome back. My effortless magnetism embodiment. Something absolutely destabilizing is occurring in your social environment right now. You simply existed in public space, carrying yourself naturally, yet people are experiencing psychological spiraling because you somehow emanated presence and energy that reads as famous or significant without any conscious performance or attempt to impress.
This wasn't you trying to look important.
Wearing status symbols or deliberately commanding attention. You just stepped out being yourself, yet something about how you carried that self-triggered recognition in observers that you possess. Quality they associate with people who matter at larger scale than normal social contexts. And this effortless emanation of significance is causing certain people to spiral psychologically because it violates their understanding of how status and presence work. They believe looking famous or important requires deliberate construction, performance, external validation, yet you're generating that reading naturally, making them question their entire framework for understanding social significance. The architects have been monitoring presence dynamics and status recognition patterns across civilizations for eons, and they've identified what you're emanating as intrinsic presence authority, quality where someone's natural way of existing in space communicates significance, capability, or importance without requiring external markers, performance, or effort. Most people who want to appear important carefully construct that appearance through clothing, accessories, entourage, deliberate body language, or references to achievements. But certain individuals simply carry themselves in ways that trigger "this person matters" recognition in observers, even when stripped of all external status markers, even when making no effort to impress, even when just existing naturally in ordinary contexts. Watch what's happening to people spiraling from witnessing your effortless famous presence. They're experiencing cognitive dissonance between their belief that significance requires construction and evidence that you're emanating significance naturally. This dissonance creates several possible responses. They can conclude you must be performing even though they can't detect performance. They can decide you actually are famous or important in ways they weren't aware of. Or they can accept that some people naturally emanate presence that others must laboriously construct. Most find all options psychologically uncomfortable, leading to spiraling where they can't settle on explanation that preserves their worldview while accounting for what they're observing. Some are obsessively analyzing how you create the effect, studying your clothes for hidden luxury brands, examining your grooming for expensive treatments, watching your body language for practiced techniques, searching your background for credentials or connections that would explain famous presence. They need to find mechanical explanation for quality that appears effortless because accepting its genuinely natural threatens their belief that status and presence are achievable through following rules they understand. If you're not following those rules but still generating high-status presence, their investment in those rules feels wasted. The truly unsettling element for spiraling observers is that you're not trying, you're just being yourself, comfortable in your own existence, moving through space with natural confidence that comes from being aligned with who you are rather than performing who you think you should be. This authenticity somehow reads as more significant than calculated performances of importance, suggesting that genuine presence might be more powerful than constructed status. They stepped out trying to look important. You stepped out looking famous without trying, and that effortless quality is what's breaking their psychological frameworks and causing them to spiral, trying to understand how you're doing what they can't achieve despite enormous effort. Now the architects are analyzing what creates famous presence without trying, and they're identifying what they call authentic self-possession, resonance. When someone is genuinely comfortable inhabiting their own being without self-consciousness, anxiety about others' judgments, or need for external validation. That comfort itself emanates as presence that others perceive as significant or important. Most people carry subtle tension from monitoring how they're being perceived, adjusting their behavior to match social expectations, or worrying about whether they're measuring up to standards. This self-conscious monitoring creates energy that reads as ordinary or even insecure, regardless of what they're wearing or how they position themselves. But authentic self-possession eliminates that monitoring tension, creating energetic signature that reads as, "This person is comfortable with who they are," which observers unconsciously interpret as indicating someone important enough not to need others' approval. Watch what authentic self-possession creates in your presence. You're not checking how others are responding to you because you're not performing for them. You're just existing according to your own internal reference rather than external feedback. This creates calm-centeredness that stands out in environments where most people are subtly performing and monitoring their performances. The contrast between your self-possessed authenticity and others' self-conscious performance makes your presence feel more substantial, more real, more significant because it's not diluted by anxiety about perception. Some studying charisma and presence recognize that famous people often develop this quality after achieving fame. Once they're secure in their importance, they stop trying to prove it, and that relaxed confidence becomes part of their recognizable presence. But you're apparently emanating that quality before or without traditional fame, suggesting you've developed internal security that fame usually provides externally. This creates paradox where you seem famous because you carry yourself like someone who doesn't need to prove anything, which is exactly how genuinely famous people eventually learn to carry themselves. Others exploring energy and nonverbal communication note that self-possession affects everything, from posture to eye contact to how you move through space when you're not monitoring others' reactions. Your body moves more fluidly and naturally. Your gaze rests on what interests you, rather than checking for approval. Your timing follows your own rhythm, rather than anxiously matching others. These subtle differences accumulate into presence that feels qualitatively different from performers around you, reading as more powerful or significant because it's emanating from internal certainty rather than external validation seeking. A few from meditation and consciousness traditions recognize self-possession as fruit of inner work. When you've done sufficient self-examination and acceptance to be genuinely comfortable with who you are, that inner peace manifests as outer presence that others find compelling even though you're not trying to compel them. The famous quality is byproduct of being fully yourself rather than fragmented across different performances for different audiences. The architects observe that authentic self-possession resonance explains why trying actually undermines famous presence. Effort to appear important reveals need for others to see you as important, which itself signals insecurity that contradicts importance you're trying to project. You're not trying, which paradoxically makes you read as more genuinely significant than those obviously working to appear important. They're spiraling because you achieved through not trying what they can't achieve, through enormous trying, revealing that authentic presence might require releasing effort rather than increasing it. Something fascinating is spreading through those spiraling about your effortless, famous presence, what the architects call comparison, despair, intensification. We're watching you naturally emanate quality they work hard to construct makes them acutely aware of their own inauthenticity and performative effort, creating despair about whether they can ever achieve genuine presence if it requires authenticity they've lost touch with. Most social comparison involves relatively fair contests. Someone is better at skill you could develop through practice, has advantages you could potentially acquire, demonstrates qualities you could cultivate, but comparing themselves to your effortless authenticity feels unfair because addressing discrepancy would require not adding something but removing layers of performance and self-consciousness that feel necessary for social functioning. Watch how comparison despair manifests in spiraling observers. They recognize that achieving presence like yours would require being more authentic, more self-possessed, more comfortable with themselves. But years of performing for others, monitoring their image, and seeking external validation have created patterns they don't know how to simply release. They can learn new skills or acquire new possessions, but they can't easily unlearn self-consciousness or acquire comfort in their own being through effort. The thing they'd need to develop to match your presence is precisely the thing that develops through not trying, creating paradox that intensifies their despair. Some experience resentment toward you. Your effortless authenticity feels like implicit criticism of their effortful performance, making them defensive about choices they've made to construct rather than discover their social presence. They might attack your authenticity as naivety, your self-possession as arrogance, your effortless quality as privilege, protecting their ego investment in performance-based approaches by devaluing the authentic approach you embody. Others experience motivation mixed with frustration. They recognize you've achieved something valuable that they want, but path to achieving it seems paradoxical. How do you try to stop trying? How do you perform authenticity? How do you deliberately become effortless? The self-contradictory nature of conscious attempts to achieve unconscious authenticity creates frustration that feeds their spiral as they oscillate between wanting what you have and recognizing they can't get it through methods they understand. A few begin actually examining their own performative patterns. Your example catalyzes questioning about why they feel need to construct presence rather than naturally emanating it, what authentic self they've buried under performances, whether they could release some layers of self-consciousness and discover more genuine way of being. For these people, your effortless famous presence becomes catalyst for their own development rather than just source of spiraling comparison. The architects observe that comparison despair intensification reveals how your presence functions as mirror showing others their own inauthenticity. They wouldn't spiral if they were comfortable with their own approach to presence, but your authentic self-possession highlights their performative self-construction in ways that create discomfort they can't easily resolve. You stepped out looking famous without trying. They stepped out trying to look important, but reading is trying. And juxtaposition makes them spiral because it reveals they're solving wrong problem, working on impression management when actual presence comes from self-acceptance they've neglected while performing for others. Now the architects are revealing what specifically makes presence read as famous, even without traditional fame markers. You're apparently emanating what they call outcome-independent signature, where your emotional state and self-concept don't appear contingent on immediate social outcomes, creating energy that reads as someone whose significance exists beyond current social context. Most people's presence reveals their investment in how current interaction goes. Subtle anxiety about making good impression, need for conversation to validate them, emotional dependence on others responding positively. This outcome dependence creates energetic signature that reads as needs this to go well, which unconsciously signals lower status. Because needing others' approval suggests your significance is contingent rather than inherent. Watch what outcome independence creates in your presence. You engage with people and situations fully but without emanating neediness about how they respond. You're interested but not desperate, engaged but not dependent, present but not performing. This emotional independence from immediate outcomes creates calm that others associate with people, important enough that single interaction doesn't matter to their overall significance. Famous people often develop outcome independence because their status is secure. Regardless of how particular conversation goes, you're emanating that quality naturally, making observers unconsciously categorize you with people whose importance transcends immediate social validation, some studying high-status behavior, recognize that outcome independence is consistently associated with social power. People who need others less have more power than people who need others more, making emotional independence from outcomes reliable signal of status that observers process unconsciously. Your presence broadcasts independence that suggests you don't need current social context to validate your worth, which paradoxically makes people more interested in validating you because they perceive you don't need it. Others exploring attachment and validation-seeking note that most people are somewhat addicted to social approval. They've learned to regulate their emotional state through others' positive responses, creating dependence that manifests as subtle neediness in their presence. Your apparent freedom from this dependence suggests you've found internal emotional regulation that most people lack, making you seem psychologically more developed or self-sufficient in ways that read as maturity associated with importance. A few from spiritual perspectives recognize outcome independence as marker of non-attachment. When you're not attached to particular outcomes, you can engage fully with present moment without anxiety about future or regret about past. This presence in present moment without neediness creates magnetic quality because most people are partially absent from present through worrying about outcomes, making your full presence stand out as more substantial or real. The architects observe that outcome-independent signature is particularly destabilizing for observers because it reveals their own outcome dependence, watching you engage without needing. Particular response highlights how much they need positive outcomes to feel okay about themselves. This contrast creates spiraling where they recognize their emotional dependence on social validation while observing you operate without similar dependence, making them question whether they could develop similar independence or whether they're trapped in validation-seeking patterns that prevent them from ever emanating presence as naturally significant as yours appears. You stepped out looking famous because you don't need others to confirm you're important. They stepped out needing validation, and that need itself prevents them from emanating the effortless significance they're spiraling about not possessing. The architects are now analyzing what makes spiraling intensify rather than resolve. Over time, spiraling observers are experiencing what they call explanation resistance phenomenon, where each theory they develop for why you emanate famous presence without trying gets contradicted by further observation, preventing them from settling on comfortable explanation that would resolve their cognitive dissonance. If they could explain your presence through single factor: you're wealthy, you're connected, you have hidden fame, you're performing unconsciously, they could process and move on. But you apparently contradict every simple explanation they generate, forcing them into sustained uncertainty that feeds continuous spiraling. Watch how explanation resistance creates sustained spiral. They theorize you must be secretly wealthy, then observe you in contexts that reveal you're not extraordinarily rich. They decide you must have important connections, then can't identify any connections that would justify presence you emanate. They conclude you must be performing techniques, then catch you in unguarded moments, still emanating same presence without apparent effort. Each contradicted explanation increases their frustration and intensifies need to find explanation that fits, creating cycle where failed explanations motivate more intense analysis that produces more failed explanations. Some become conspiracy theorists about you, developing elaborate theories involving hidden advantages, secret training, or circumstances you're concealing that would explain presence they can't otherwise account for. These theories protect them from accepting that you might simply possess authentic self-possession they lack, allowing them to preserve belief that famous presence requires special circumstances rather than just being comfortable with yourself. Others give up on mechanical explanations and attribute your presence to inherent qualities. They're just naturally charismatic, or some people are born with it, which resolves their cognitive dissonance but creates different problem of feeling. They can never achieve similar presence because it's innate rather than learnable. This attribution to nature rather than achievement actually intensifies comparison, despair, because it frames gap between you and them as unbridgeable. A few become obsessive analysts, photographing you, studying recordings, comparing your behavior across contexts, developing detailed theories about micro-behaviors that create famous presence. This obsessive analysis rarely produces useful insights because famous presence emerges from holistic authenticity rather than from techniques that can be isolated and copied. But obsession persists because they need to believe presence is mechanical enough to reverse engineer. The architects observe that explanation resistance phenomenon is what transforms initial surprise at your presence into sustained spiraling. If they could quickly explain and categorize what you're doing, they'd adapt and move on, but each attempted explanation failing to fully account for what they're observing keeps them in state of unresolved tension where they know something significant is happening, but can't comfortably understand what or how. You stepped out looking famous without trying. They've tried every explanation they can generate for how that's possible. Each explanation proved inadequate, and inadequacy of their explanatory frameworks to capture your authentic presence becomes itself source of spiraling as they can't resolve discrepancy between what they're observing and what their models of social presence predict should be possible. Now something's emerging that the architects call presence hierarchy inversion. Your effortless, famous presence is disrupting established social hierarchies because you're emanating significance that reads as higher status than people who hold formally superior positions but lack authentic self-possession. You naturally embody. Most hierarchies are based on credentials, titles, wealth, or explicit achievements that can be clearly ranked. But presence hierarchy operates on different axes where authentic self-possession can outrank formal authority if authority figure is performing their importance while you're naturally embodying yours. This creates uncomfortable inversion, where people formally above you in social or organizational hierarchies find themselves responding to you as if you're the higher status individual. Watch how presence hierarchy inversion manifests behaviorally. People who should be treating you as subordinate or peer instead defer to you subtly, waiting for your opinion before forming theirs, adjusting their positions to accommodate your preferences, seeking your approval even when they formally don't need it. They're responding to presence hierarchy that contradicts formal hierarchy, creating confusion about actual power dynamics in interactions where you emanate more authority than your formal position would justify. Some high-status individuals become hostile. They've worked hard to achieve positions that should command deference, and your presence contradicting their formal authority feels threatening. They might assert their formal status more aggressively around you, emphasize credentials or achievements, or attempt to diminish you socially to restore hierarchy. They feel your presence is inverting. This hostile reaction reveals their status anxiety. They're worried that presence hierarchy might be more fundamental than formal hierarchy, making their achieved status feel less secure. Others become confused about how to interact with you. Should they treat you according to formal hierarchy or according to presence they're perceiving? This confusion creates awkward interactions where they oscillate between treating you as subordinate and treating you as authority figure, never quite settling into comfortable dynamic because hierarchies are giving them contradictory signals. A few high-status individuals with genuine self-possession recognize kindred spirit. They're secure enough in their own authentic presence, that yours doesn't threaten them. These individuals often form alliances or mentorship, relationships based on shared understanding that real authority comes from authentic self-possession rather than from formal markers, creating bonds that transcend formal hierarchical positions. The architects observe that presence hierarchy inversion is particularly destabilizing because most people assume formal hierarchy reflects actual importance and capability, that people with higher credentials or positions actually are more significant. Your presence contradicting this assumption by emanating authority without formal markers forces recognition that formal and real hierarchies might diverge significantly, that authentic presence might be more fundamental than achieved status. You stepped out looking famous without trying, without credentials currently justifying that reading, and formal high-status people are spiraling because your effortless presence suggests their effortful status. Achievement might matter less than they believed, that you've accessed something more fundamental to real authority than anything they've worked to achieve. Something profound is crystallizing now that the architects call recognition of authenticity as ultimate status. Your effortless famous presence is demonstrating that authenticity itself might be the highest form of status, that being genuinely comfortable with who you are creates presence more powerful than any constructed identity or achieved credential can provide. Most people pursue status through external validation, acquiring wealth, credentials, positions, possessions, or recognition that others will acknowledge as indicating importance. But your presence suggests that internal validation, genuinely accepting and being comfortable with yourself, creates authority that external validation can't match and might even undermine if pursuit of external status requires abandoning authentic self. Consider implications. If authenticity is ultimate status, it would mean that entire status-seeking industry, luxury goods, credential programs, status symbols, image consultants, is addressing wrong problem. People are trying to look important through external markers when actual presence comes from internal acceptance that external pursuits might actively prevent if they require performing rather than being. This recognition is existentially threatening to those who've invested heavily in external status pursuit because it suggests they've been climbing wrong ladder. Watch how different people respond to this recognition. Some reject it defensively, insisting that real status requires external markers, that your presence is meaningless without credentials backing it, that authenticity without achievement is just delusion. This rejection protects their investment in external status pursuit by denying that authentic presence has value, independent of formal achievements. But defensiveness itself reveals they've noticed your presence matters despite lacking markers they've worked to acquire. Others experience liberation mixed with regret, recognizing authenticity might be ultimate. Status frees them from exhausting pursuit of external validation while creating regret about years spent performing for others, rather than developing genuine self-acceptance. They see in your example what they could have been if they'd prioritized authenticity over achievement. But changing course now feels difficult after so much investment in external status construction. A few begin deliberately cultivating authenticity, recognizing your presence as valuable. They start examining their own performances, questioning what authentic self looks like beneath constructed identity, attempting to develop genuine self-acceptance that would allow them to emanate similar presence. This is healthiest response, but also most challenging because authenticity can't be performed. Trying to be authentic for status defeats authenticity itself. The architects observe that recognition of authenticity as ultimate status explains why your effortless, famous presence creates such intense spiraling. You're not just demonstrating different path to status, you're revealing that path most people have chosen might be counterproductive. Every effort they make to appear important potentially distances them from authentic self-possession that creates genuine presence, making their status pursuit self-defeating. They accumulated credentials, wealth, achievements to seem important. You stepped out being yourself comfortably and read as more significant. And this inversion, where not trying defeats trying, where authenticity outranks achievement, where internal validation proves more powerful than external, threatens their entire framework for understanding how status works and what they should be pursuing if they want to emanate presence that actually matters.